Hello. I want to make a film review of The Walk. As I say with all my film reviews, there will be spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen the film and don't want spoilers, look away now. Okay, it's rare that I say this, but this is one of the best films I've ever seen. I have to say that it is one of the best films I have ever seen. I thought it would be good, but I didn't think it would be as captivating as it really was. Um, and I'm very pleased I went to see it. It's very, very, very rare that I will say a film is virtually flawless, but I would say that about this film. And that is, I have to say, without knowing the full story of the background. If there is any detail errors and so on, which I'm sure there will be, that will make it not perfect, but it is, to my reckoning, a superb film. So a bit of the background to the film, the credits. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis, written by Christopher Brown, and stars Joseph-Gordon Levitt in the title role of Philippe Petit, Philippe Petit, I think it's pronounced Philippe Petit, who was a young Frenchman who, in 1974, done a tightrope walk between the World Trade Center towers. Um, and he's done a lot of other daring things in his life. He's still very much alive. He's only 66 now. And of course, this film will give him renewed attention. The film also stars Ben Kingsley, Charlotte de Bon, James Badge Dale, Ben Schwartz, and Steve Valentine. Um, and the film was dedicated to the 9/11 victims in the end, obviously because the Trade Center is a feature of the film. Has been said, in fact, this was the second most famous thing to happen to the Trade Center after the 9/11 attacks. Principal photography began in 2014 in Montreal, so I guess that doubled as Manhattan. Um, there's several other films, documentaries featuring Philippe Petit. Looking at the Wikipedia article here, there's a children's picture book, The Man Who Walked Between the Towers, was written and illustrated by American Mordecai Gerstein in 2003. And there's another one, a documentary called Man on Wire from 2008. But this is a big blockbuster film. The budget was 35 million. So far it says 14.1 million made in the box office. I hope it's a lot higher than that. I really, really hope it gets a lot higher. In my opinion, this is a great film. And I'll explain why I think it's a great film. Firstly, the subject matter is something quite specific about a tightrope walker. So it's always risky, I think, for a director to take a subject like that, because you need to angle it into a story that goes beyond the central focus. Okay, so you have a man performing this incredible daredevil stunt, but you need characters around that. You need a character progression. In my opinion, the film achieves that completely. I haven't seen many films of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. In fact, this may be my first, and he done a great job. Like I say, he plays a young Parisian man. Petit was 25 when he done this, and I think one thing, especially for an American actor to play a French role, I think there's always a temptation to overdo it, to exaggerate the French accent. Now, obviously, I'm not in the best position to say this, but in my opinion, Joseph Gordon-Levitt gets the balance just right. It's a convincing French accent without being a caricature French accent. You know, it just sounds like a French guy. It doesn't sound like a cartoon French guy. He sounds like a regular French guy. Um, and the supporting cast all had quite an important role. Ben Kingsley plays his father figure, not his father, but the sort of circus owner who kind of trains him. Um, and there's other supporting roles there, but the main focus is, of course, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. An interesting side feature is that far from not being involved in the script, the real Philippe Petit, I'm going to have to learn to pronounce that right, actually trained Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So I imagine there was some stunt work done in this. Um, the film is taken from his narration point of view, and it commences with him standing on the torch of the Statue of Liberty with the sort of Hudson River and then the Trade Center in the background. It's a bit strange seeing the Trade Center in the film, I mean, obviously, there's been films since 9/11 that have featured it, but this is very lucid. It's very like the the effects in this film, the special effects. I'm not sure what exact scientific name is, if it's what that would be, but it's very believable. There's a scene in the film when he arrives in New York and he just puts his chin on the tar just to take this in, and he has a lot of self-doubt at that point. There's a natural progression. He goes from street performance to slightly bigger, then to a circus, then to Notre Dame, where he's arrested in Paris. And then eventually, this is set in 1973, 74, just as the Trade Center is being constructed. And when he made his famous walk, it was actually not completely constructed at that point. It was a full height, but the top floors were still just like some scaffolding. Um, to give a similar comparison in a film, I guess you could think of the final scene in the first Sherlock Holmes film where they're still building Tower Bridge. Um, so in that sense, it seems very accurate. The film is captivating from start to finish. There is not a single boring moment. Um, and it's rare to say. It takes a lot to really kind of grip me, but this did have me getting vertigo. I mean, the way it's filmed, you get the feeling. You really get that feeling. And if you don't, then that would surprise me because it's a very, very powerful cinematography effect that is being used. I like the idea of the narration. I like that the fact he talks his way through it. And there is character development. There's one bit in the film, for example, when his girlfriend and his accomplices they're a bit fed up with him because he's being very demanding and giving the impression that he's acting in a bit of a selfish way. So there is character development. There is that whole sort of scenario, but he is. If I have to sum up the film in several words, it would be inspiring, thrilling, and captivating. Probably those three words. Inspiring because it shows what human beings are capable of, and this is a film that absolutely lends. I mean, this is a story that absolutely lends itself to film. Captivating because not a single scene is boring. Even the talking scenes, all it's about I guess about 2 hours long. Just double check that. Um, yeah, it's just over 2 hours long, but there's not a boring moment in the film. What was the other word I used? Thrilling, without a doubt. There is a bit in the end when he's I don't know if this is true or if this was exaggerated by Zemeckis, but there's a bit where the police are standing in both trade centers trying to get him in, and he's basically playing up to the crowd and he's horsing around. At that point, you're kind of like, on one hand, you've huge respect for the guy for balls of steel. On the other hand, you think, don't push it, don't push it. You're tempting fate. And you really get that vibe. Um, Also, the other thing I liked about the film was it wasn't just a lot of talking and suddenly he does his daring stunt. There's a lot of thrilling lead ups. Like, for example, they try to evade the security because, of course, it was an illegal act. They try to evade the security. There's lots of suspense moments. It's just a great film, and I'm very surprised it's only got 14 million in the box office so far. I hope that figure is inaccurate, because this is a film that really does deserve praise. Um, One thing in the credits in my cinema, it actually credited. I don't know if it was a mistake, but it credited Jeremiah O'Driscoll as the director. Well, according to Wikipedia, he's the editor, so I don't know what that's all about. Cinematography was by Dario Szwolski. Uh, Music by Alan Silvestri. Joseph-Gordon Levitt done a great job. One more thing I'd like to say, in the scenes where he is doing the tightrope walking, especially on the trade center segment, um, by the way, there's a bit you think, oh, well, it's over, that was great, but what about the crowd? And you think the film's going to end, but then he walks back. And then you get the crowd interaction, and it's just all around, it's just a very captivating film. I would honestly give this, I would give it out of 10 out of 10. The only reason I don't is because I'm sure there will be some inaccuracies. So that's the only reason I wouldn't give it 10 out of 10. But having seen this now, I would not have much hesitation in putting it in my top 10 films. And I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of films in my life. It really is a very good film. Um, yeah, what I was going to say was when he's in a sort of, I guess you would call it his tightrope walker, or the official name, I guess, is high wire artist. uniform, his costume, sort of a bit like a mime artist. It's completely black, light clothing, sort of slippers, almost like ballerina slippers. He kind of reminded me of a French Bruce Lee. I'm not sure if anyone else noticed that. The reason I say so is if you look at some of those old Bruce Lee movies from the 70s, when Bruce Lee is going around very nimble, very sort of slick, it reminded me of that actually. And there's a extreme confidence about the guy, slight madness perhaps. One of his sort of accomplices is got vertigo, so that obviously lends to the story as well. There's humorous moments. There's a love story. So all round, it's just a great film. And I really do hope it does well. This film deserves full credit. I'll honestly, I'm trying to be objective and think of an area to criticize it in. I can't. I actually can't. And that is very rare, where I would talk about a film and not think of a single way to criticize it. Um, yeah, I can't. Um, well, there was one scene where they said that Albert has quit. That was when they were trying to do a setup between the trade center and the towers. I was slightly confused as to who Albert was. It's sort of, but that's perhaps my fault for not paying attention. I was slightly confused at that bit, but it's a great film. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree. If you disagree, fine, but keep it respectful. And of course, inevitably, it got me researching Philippe Petit. Um, he's done interviews. Inevitably, the film will renew a lot of focus on him. This was 41 years ago, but incredible. I mean, it was a very daring thing to do, perhaps reckless, perhaps a little bit reckless. If the cord snapped, it could have caused a lot of damage. He could have died, etc., etc. There's a lot of what ifs, but even the police who arrested him, at least in the film, they talk. One of the guys say you're incredible, and it's a very very uplifting film. Um, and it made me come out of the cinema not thinking, okay, I'm going to go to two tall buildings and walk between them necessarily, but it did. It's the sort of film that inspires me, and any film that has that effect has to get praise. I mean, I came out thinking, what can I do to be exceptional? What can I do to be different from the norm? So any film that has the power to make someone think like that, Robert Zemeckis is a genius, and so is Philip Petit.